Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to be doing the follow-up to the Russian Windows XP unboxing. And if you haven't seen that video, you'll probably want to go ahead and actually check it out up in the cards right now, so you'll kind of be up to speed on what it is we're going to be doing here. Because in today's video we're going to be installing the Russian copy of Windows XP Starter Edition on this Dell Latitude D610 right here. So this computer right now currently runs just a standard copy of Windows XP. I believe this is Home Edition. And we're going to be putting in this CD into this computer's CD drive and seeing how it handles this copy of Windows from Russia. And yeah, so we're basically just going to go ahead and jump into it. I don't really have much else to say other than just thank you guys for the amazing support on that last video, because I mean that one did very, very well, and I was, very, very excited to actually get this in the mail, and it's going to be awesome to see how this installs on this computer. And the other cool thing is that this is going to be the first time this CD has ever been used since it left the factory. So we're going to pop out the CD-ROM drive, and we're going to go ahead and put in the super cool CD for Windows XP Starter Edition from Russia. So let's go ahead and pop that in and see if this thing actually works, which I don't really think there'll be any problems with it. But I have a feeling that this is going to be all completely in Russian. But check that out, it actually comes up with a standard installer right here. And it's all in English, so that's definitely, pretty cool. So we're just going to go ahead and actually exit out of this because we are going to boot off of the CD. But the reason why that we are booted into XP here is I want to actually browse the file structure on this CD. So you see it says RU right there instead of EN. Typically you'll see this and it'll say _EN at the end if you're using a English version, but this is RU for Russian. If we go ahead and open this up, we should see all of the files in here. There is this read first.txt document, and this looks to be this is probably in Russian, but I just don't have the proper character set installed, so it's not able to actually display anything properly, as you can see there. So but we're just gonna go ahead and close out of that. And we're actually going to restart the system and boot off the CD, and we'll be jumping right into this. So let's hit restart here, and let's go. Alright, so here we are loading all the files off of the CD. Everything is still in English so far, and just so you guys know, I did actually make a backup copy of this disc in case anything went wrong, God forbid, if this, CD drive somehow messed up the CD, like if it got, scratched or something. I was, cautious and made like an actual backup of it, so in case anything happens to this disk, we can still take a look at it. Alright, so far so good. It actually says Windows XP Home Edition up there at the very top, and we're going to go ahead and press enter to continue with the installation. It's going to examine the disk. Right here though, it does say Starter Edition. We can actually go ahead and I wonder if it makes any reference in this CD that it is like a Russian copy. It actually says for the ULID XP Service Pack 2, but it does say RU-EN, so it's like the Russian license agreement, but it's in English. So we're going to press F8 to agree. Now, one aspect of this whole installation that I'm sure some of you guys are going to be interested in is the activation process. I actually did get a couple comments from some of you guys, and actually an email from a viewer as well, kind of telling me that you might not be able to activate this version of Windows outside of Russia. It might actually try to, see what IP address you're trying to activate from, and, since I'm here in the US and I don't have a Russian IP address, unless I'm using like a VPN or something like that, it might pose problems. Now, if we go through the phone activation, however, we might be able to activate it just fine. I personally don't know. This is something that we're going to be figuring out in this video, because this is obviously my first time installing a foreign, release of Windows. And we might not even have to go through the activation process. It might allow us to skip it for now and let us kind of have that like 30-day trial thing on the OS where it'll just keep, bugging you periodically about, hey, you have to activate within 30 days. So we might be able just to skip it entirely, at least for now. But we'll just see what happens, later on in this video. But unless you like read that license agreement very thoroughly and got to the bottom where it said like under the EULA ID it said RU, there's really no sign that this is a Russian copy of Windows. because it's still all in English, at least in this first portion here. I guarantee you that that is going to change later on. And it still even says Windows XP Home Edition. So again, you would have to actually read, the actual EULA to see that it said Starter Edition. And we're going to press Enter to restart the computer. So the boot screen is still exactly the same, Microsoft Windows XP. And this is where I think we're going to switch over to Russian. Maybe not. Okay, never mind. So it's, for some reason I thought that Starter was like going to go through that Windows 2000 style setup, but I guess it just goes through the standard Windows XP setup right here. So it still up here says Windows XP Home Edition. Now I wonder if like what it's going to have for like the region and everything, because usually it has that auto selected with like English, for the language. And then it has like your, it usually has like the Eastern time zone. I think usually the Pacific time zone like auto selected, which is a time zone here in the US. So it's going to be interesting to see if it has like a Russian time zone and like the Russian language selected by default. And we're going to see if we can even change that, like see if there's even any other language option on here. Okay, so interestingly enough, it has auto selected the language as English United States, location set to United States, and it has the US keyboard layout. So that's actually very interesting. I guess we can just stick with that. I honestly thought it was going to be way more challenging to like have the system be in like Russian, but I guess we can keep it in English. We can obviously change it later on, but let's just kind of leave it set to this for now. That's actually really interesting. So we're going to put in our name here. We'll just put in, let's just do owner. And product key, here we go. So let me go ahead and put in the product key here. Actually, let's see if we can just get past this. No, we can't. So we got to enter in the product key. So I'm going to do that right now. All right, so the product key was valid. We'll go ahead and put in Russian XP as the computer name. Yeah, Russian XP, but it's English. And yeah, it's got the like Pacific time zone. The date is wrong. I think since 2005, we're like, a little bit farther in time than that. We're in the 2020s now. But yeah, I am kind of wondering about the whole like language thing. I guess that's just like the default. I mean, those are like English US for the keyboard layout, and the Pacific time zone are like the default settings that the installer just goes to. So they didn't change that. Alright, so that portion of the setup has finished. We are now restarting once again. Yeah, so this is where it actually starts. Oh, there we go. Check that out. So now we've got some Russian text here. So it looks like after the setup, even though I specified the English language, it now has actually switched over to Russian. So this is probably the, message where it says, Windows is going to adjust your screen resolution. So press OK, and that's exactly what it did. So we're going to press OK. Now, I got a lot of comments from you guys saying use the Google Translator app on your phone, because it has like that feature where you can actually hold up your phone's camera to like some other language, and it can try to or at least attempt to translate it into whatever language that you speak. And I know that exists. I just didn't do it until like after the video, and I was like, oh wait, I could have probably used that. So this here, like, we already know what this says, but it's just interesting that it's in Russian, even though I specified English during that previous portion of the setup. But there is an out-of-box experience, so we're going to press next down here, and we're going to enable automatic updates. I mean, I pretty much know what all this says because I've just seen it many times before. So that's automatic updates. That's what that is there. We're going to skip connecting to the internet. And so this is asking you if you want to activate Windows. So we're going to say no, because we can't really connect to the internet at the moment. And there we go. So we will press continue. And now we should log into the desktop. So there we go. Check that out. That is beautiful. Oh, it is the same image, but it's just, there's like more to see here. You can see there's actually like this whole bottom part of it that you can't really see from the image that is, cropped on the package there. So yeah, this is obviously the main difference that actually sets this version of XP Starter apart from the generic version that we took a look at in that previous video a few years ago, is that this actually has a custom image themed around, again, what country that this was actually released in. So since this was the Russian version, it has this image of St. Basil's Cathedral, but definitely looks pretty nice. So you can see that we've got some icons on the desktop right here. We've got our recycle bin down here at the bottom. We do have the same watermark. This is actually telling us about activation, so it does actually have the 30-day activation period, so we don't actually have to activate this right now, which is pretty awesome, because I was kind of wondering about that. But yeah, it does have the same XP Starter Edition watermark, which is going to be present across the entire system. Even if you have a window open, it's still going to show, very similar to the like Activate Windows watermark that'll show up like on Windows 10 if you don't have it properly activated. There is still some English text. If you open up the start menu here, you've got some programs like WordPad, Windows Media Player, and Windows Messenger that are still in English. For internet, it says Internet Explorer, Outlook Express, but the actual like internet and like email is in Russian up there. Obviously, XP Starter Edition is still in English, so we can go into all programs here and see what's installed on the system. So this is your, I'm gonna guess this is the startup folder. This right here is your games, and this should be, yep, accessories. So now you may also be able to tell that at the bottom here in the taskbar, we do have a language switcher, and right now it's on English United States, but we can change it to Russian, or at least attempt it to. It doesn't actually swap for us, but we can hit show the language bar, and so now let's see if we can change this to Russian. No, it still doesn't want to work. Alright, so one of the other things that I want to briefly demonstrate for you guys is the tutorial videos that come included with this operating system. So if you click on this icon up here at the very top left of the screen, this is actually going to open up this interface right here in Flash Player. Actually, you may have been able to see that up there at the very top. And what this is just a bunch of different videos and guides on just how to use various things on the computer. Now, that CD that you may remember from this box, or from this case right here, that wasn't the operating system CD but was that other CD, I actually have that in the system right now, and that is actually the exact same thing. If I go into my computer here and I launch this CD right here, you'll see this brings up the exact same thing. And I did try to like open this without this CD being in the drive, and it still opened up. So it's not like this icon is looking for anything on the CD. So that is definitely very, very interesting. So they do have like basically all of these guides contained on a separate CD. So I guess before you were to install it, you could put that into, I guess, another computer that you had, or maybe you were running like an older version of Windows, and you could kind of get to know Windows XP Starter Edition without actually, having it installed. So that is definitely very useful. But we can just kind of go through here. Now, I was actually able to use the Google Translate app on my phone to translate some of this text here. And again, this is a very rough translation, so to any of you people who actually speak Russian out there, you will know obviously what all of this says. But Google Translate roughly translates this first box right here to say introduction. So if we click on that, what it will do is kind of launch into a little video here. Now, it does say that there is sound. That's kind of what this is going to indicate right there, but I don't have the proper sound drivers installed on this computer, so we're unfortunately not going to be able to get that. But I would assume it would be speaking in Russian. Yeah, so this is actually just going to tell you how to like go through all of these different options. So it's kind of just, as it says, like an introduction video, and you can kind of navigate through this by pressing this button down here to kind of skip forward a little bit, and once you get to the very end, you can close out of it and go back to the main screen. So this second one, Google Translate roughly translates this to say computer. So if we click on that, so yeah, it's basically just kind of defining what each of these parts are. So like, what the monitor is, what the keyboard is, what the mouse is. So yeah, this is really just for, very novice, computer users, which is definitely to be expected. I mean, that's kind of what this version of Windows was kind of intended for, was for those people who were just starting to, learn about computers and learn about Windows. So this one right here is actually talking about Microsoft Paint. That's the one thing that you can actually read in English there. So if you click on this, it actually pulls up this video of, the actual desktop, and I assume it's going to go through and kind of tell you how to launch Microsoft Paint. So we can see, yeah, there it is. So he's going to launch Paint. and just kind of talk about, you know, what you can do with paint, I would presume. So yeah, that is the little, you know, tutorial guide. That is, again, exactly the same as that icon that's on the desktop. Is literally the exact same thing that's what is contained on the CD. And for these other two icons right here, this one right here roughly translates to, you know, get support. This is obviously the help application, and this one right here actually translates, you know, this is again very roughly through Google Translate to getting started. So this is probably going to be some more text-based guides on how to actually do various things on your computer. So this one right here is actually talking about how to establish an internet connection and use Internet Explorer, you know, to browse the web. So yeah, that is definitely very useful stuff to have for, you know, in the case, for example, if you didn't have sound and weren't able to hear any of the videos, you could use this guide right here to just, you know, read up on all of that stuff. So one of the other things that I want to show you guys is actually a couple other visual modifications and, you know, extra things that Microsoft has added into this OS that are exclusive to the Russian copy of XP Starter Edition. So obviously we have this nice wallpaper here, but if we right click on the desktop and go down to properties, you can actually choose from these 3 different wallpapers right here. And you can see that this display properties is actually very slimmed down. There's not a theme section. You only have desktop wallpaper, screensaver, and the actual, you know, advanced setting where you can change the screen resolution, which we'll actually do. We'll bump this up to 1024 by 768. So there we go. So we have kind of adjusted our screen resolution there. But we can go under wallpaper, and so this is the default wallpaper, but you can select this one right here, and there's also this one right here. So there's 3 separate you know, Russian themed wallpapers that are only available in this version of XP Starter Edition. So definitely very, very nice. We'll just change it to the second one here so you guys can see that. So there you go. So yeah, I just think that this is pretty cool because as far as I know, Microsoft hasn't really done this with other releases of Windows, but they did it with XP Starter Edition and just really, you know, customized and added different wallpapers and even screensavers to all of the different regional releases. So moving on to screensavers here, we actually have a couple of screensavers to choose from. This first one here is a animated Russian flag that will come onto the screen. And yeah, this is your screensaver. So yeah, definitely pretty nice. And then you've got these 2 other ones. Actually, I think this is the only other custom one that is in here. So yeah, this one right here is actually the only other custom screensaver only available in this release. The other 2, if I go ahead and go into that, this one right here is the My Pictures, you know, slideshow screensaver that I'm sure you guys know about if you've ever used XP. And then this one right here is just your basic Windows XP image that'll just show up on the screen and move around to various different places. Although this time it says Windows XP Starter Edition rather than XP Professional or Home Edition like it does in those respective releases. And you can even see from the preview here, it actually has the, like, you know, standard version of the screensaver, but when you hit preview, it's actually, you know, changed to say Starter Edition with a little bit of a different layout as well. So yeah, that is actually one of the huge things that they changed in here, is they actually really slimmed down the you know, display properties window, and there's literally only these 3 options in here. Like I said, there's no theme option in there, so you can't really change the theme, which for a novice computer user, they probably wouldn't really need to. But yeah, we can also, you know, go into my computer here, and we can see how much space is taken up on the hard drive. So we can right click on this and go to properties. So this right here is, you know, 3.11 gigabytes, and then this is like a, you know, 71.4 gigabyte hard drive, or at least that's what Windows is recognizing it as. So yeah, you can still go in here and actually view, you know, hard disk properties. Obviously you can go into control panel, you know, and modify all of your settings in here. And yeah, this is one of the other modifications. I probably touched on this in my full XP Starter Edition video, but there is no classic view in the control panel anymore. You only have the category view. Now, one of the major restrictions of Windows XP Starter Edition, and this is in all of the different releases, and I even touched on this in my original video as well, is that you can only have up to 3 applications opened up at one time. Now, you can have multiple windows for each of those applications, applications. So like I have Windows Explorer open here, I could go in and open up my documents, and that'll be able to open up Find. But if I try to open up another individual application like Windows Messenger, if I open that, you're going to get this message right here that tells you you can only have up to 3 applications open at one time. So that is one of the major restrictions of this OS that is, again, kind of designed to not overwhelm people who have never used a computer before by opening up like a million different windows. They can just have they have just a maximum of 3 that they can open, and if they want to open up more than that, then they have to close one. So yeah, that is one of the major restrictions of this OS that would be very annoying for somebody who is at least slightly proficient with computers and wanted to have more than 3 windows open at one time on their system. But there you have it, guys. That is a full installation and demonstration of Windows XP Starter Edition, the Russian version that I recently purchased from a guy out in Russia. I know a lot of you guys are probably wondering about the whole activation thing, and it was pretty cool that we were able to basically bypass that for this video. But if you guys want to see me attempt to activate this in 2020 here in the US, I'm not sure if we'll be successful at it, but be sure to let me know down in the comments below, as I could definitely do that in a separate video. But for now, that is going to wrap it up for today's video, so I hope you all enjoyed this one. If you did, definitely be sure to give it a thumbs up, be sure to get subscribed down below, and turn on those channel notifications if you haven't already, to get notified whenever that I upload a new video, which I do every single week on this channel. And as always, guys, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.